downstate where secrets hide. In Tampa Street, she seeks out lies. With a sharp eye, she'll reveal the truth. Justice calls and she pursues. From county jails to hallowed courts, she finds truth where they distort. Fearless heart and mind so keen, Sam unravels tangled seams. The truth is buried deep in files. Fairness is what they try to hide, but Sam prevails. She's got your back. With grit and grace, she never lacks. Uncover lies and play no games. From jails to halls where verdicts lay. Truth her compass, come what may. Footsteps echo in the night. She chases justice with the light. A warrior for justice for all. She won't stop when she hits a wall. Florida P.I.Sam is her name. Uncover lies and play no games. From jails to halls where verdicts lay. Truth her compass, come what may.
Happy Halloween, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed Henry's trick or treat slideshow. StreamYard changes. Oh, Jason! Hello, my love. How are you? Hi, Mom. Hi, Susie. Henry is free. As Henry for whatever. I'm telling you, Squeegee, I'm gonna pack him up and send him up there to you all. How are you guys doing this evening? It's good to see everyone. I hope those of you who were there for the Trial TV Courthouse of Horrors Halloween special last night enjoyed that performance. A lot of work went into it on the part of our friends, Aaron and Chris. And why is my chat not showing me everyone? Okay. So it's good to see you guys. Oh, look at you, C. Morales. 4 months for membership. And yes, thank you to our mods. Thank you to everyone who's here. I'm just trying to see. I need to be better with StreamYard. I swear it updates every 5 minutes. Hi, B, Michigan. Hi, Dad. How are you? Hello, hello. Okay, guys. So, last night was crazy because right when we came off of, or I came off of the Trial TV live thing, Alexis is texting me that the jury was deliberating in Alicia Andrews. So if you don't know, Alicia Andrews was the fifth defendant in a drill rap murder trial. Already, there you go. Um, she was the first to go to trial, and I'm working on that case, and the rest are set to go in April. And they had the case. They got it, I guess, at like 6:45 or something last night. And at 10 o'clock, little after 10, they came back with a freaking verdict. And I couldn't, they'd been there, the lawyers had been there since like in court since 8, and most lawyers show up earlier than that. And then I couldn't believe she had them start deliberating, and they wanted to stay, and they did. Like, that's crazy. So then I was like, oh my God, am I gonna have to do that? Well, no, technically my job is done and I don't have to be there. But then I remembered that it's a DP trial and second phase will have to go forward. So no, I won't have to stay that late in the courthouse, which is fantastic. Um, yeah, it depends on the judge, Squeegee. Hi, Cindy Stovall. Um, it seems to depend on the judge what they do with the jury, but yes, this was Judge Cisco, and it was a really interesting trial because the defense had 8 lawyers and they were privately retained and they continually like broke all the court rules. Um, I don't know, there were some shenanigans going on. Um, but she was only convicted on one lesser included. So good for her. It's not going to go the same way for the rest of them. Um, so uh, tonight I am going to address the Sunny Bell sentencing. Squeegee, I know you asked that. We did have it on, God, was that? What day was that? Monday, Wednesday? I was there. I don't remember. I think it was Wednesday. I think it was supposed to be Monday and got changed to Wednesday. Cameras were there, but it's never aired in its entirety anywhere. It went very differently. Hi, Psychosauric Rex, and welcome. Hi, Jenny Jeeve. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I enjoyed being a part of that. Um, hello, hello. Yeah, Judge Cisco is the judge in the Julio thing. She also handled the oh my God, his name's gonna go right on my head. Ronnie O'Neill case. And her sentencing in that was really, it's worth a watch. So we're going to talk about the Sunny Bell sentencing. Like I said, there were cameras there, but live stream was happening for the Alicia Andrews trial. So I haven't found it anywhere in its entirety, but I do want to talk about it. It's built into my outline, and I do have an outline. I have a lot of content here. I might sort of skip around, but if you guys have, and I have questions also built in, and instructions from Alexis to then like give you time to answer them and everything. So, but if you do have questions about what anything we're talking about, please put them in the chat with like Q's or question marks or something like that, so Alexis can star them and I don't have to scroll back through the chat. Oh, thank you for becoming a member, Jenny G. Appreciate that. Memberships are $1.50 a month. And if you have gifts turned on, or the ability to accept gifts turned on, you never know if you might get a gifted membership. And basically, right now I don't have a lot of content on memberships, but it helps, support the channel. In other words, it buys Henry green beans, and those are 2 bags a week, and they cost, I think, like $2.50 a bag. So what's that? 5. So that's like $20 a month. Think of it that way. You're helping him to live a healthier life. So yeah. Oh, my mom wants me to tell you. Well, thank you, Joe Schmo just gifted 5 Florida PISAM memberships. So welcome. So my mom wants me to tell you about the kittens. I have somehow become the designated cat lady of this complex, despite the fact I'm not the only person with a cat here. And so the property manager came to me the other day, and I'd already had a dramatic morning. And I was like, oh my God. So she comes and she's like, I need help. I found kittens. And I'm like, shit, where? And I'm cursing. Okay. Yeah, if you want to be a member, that'd be great because monetization is probably, I'm never going to be fully monetized. Um, so she takes me downstairs, and this is an old, this building's about as old as I am. It's like a complex of four buildings with a courtyard in the middle. And so all of like our electrical and air conditioning and stuff, none of that is new. It's all like old. So she takes me to this electrical panel box that's just like huge, and it's a few inches off the ground. And there were two kittens like balled up in there. Um, and I'm like, where's their mom? It was like 2:30 in the afternoon. She goes, I don't know. I haven't. She's like, I've been walking the property since 8:30 and I haven't seen her. And I was like, well, she's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, if the mom, they have to eat all the time. And if they don't, they'll die. And this is also Florida. And what I didn't know is you're not supposed to rescue kittens if you find them outside like that. So that's a new lesson. But anyway, of course, I took them, put them in a little box, took them to a place called the Pet Resource Center here in Tampa that I actually knew where it was because it's right next to the jail. Um, and they were very helpful. I had to foster them overnight. I do not have children, and I know now that I made the correct decision in doing that. They were very, very, very tiny. Um, Henry's paw was the size of their head, one of their heads. So it was two girls, and they were about a week old. And they gave me all kinds of, they gave me like the formula to feed them with, and like things to keep them warm. And, you know, they were like, you have to feed them every 2 hours. I was like, oh, okay, I can do that, right? So I just never went to sleep because they were hungry, but they also did not appreciate me trying to feed them out of like the bottle or the syringe or whatever I was given. And it was a lot. But they let me take them back the next morning, and they said, come back as soon as we open in the morning, and they will be an alert will go out, and they will go to a foster family today. So that's good because if you take them, first of all, the shelters are full, and secondly, they're the first to be euthanized. So if you find abandoned kittens, don't mess with them. Keep your eye out because the mom might be out hunting and they might come back at night. And these kittens had not been abandoned; they were chunky. So she had been around, but in my ignorance, I did not know any of that. And I just knew I would stress over it. So anyway, that is that. They were very, very cute. Um, so, okay, we're going to talk about, have we hit the breaking point on true crime? Is it too much true crime? Let me tell you why I came up with this concept or this idea. I want to make sure I said hello to everybody. Hi, Joe. Okay, so thank you, Joe Schmo, for gifting 5 memberships. Thank you, Trial TV Live, for gifting 5 memberships. If you guys received a membership, please be sure to say thank you. Hi, Afton. Welcome. Good to see you. Okay, so, oh, you guys are sweet. So I came up with this idea because true crime is essentially what I do for a living. And so it's one thing to be an interested consumer of true crime content, and another one to be an interested consumer of it as well as someone who does it for a living in one form or another. And so even though I have friends here who have channels, and I have this channel, and thank you for showing up tonight. I have abandoned you. It's been a month. I apologize. Um, when when there are times when it's fine, I can go on and look at what other channels are talking about. If there's a case, maybe I'll can put that on while I'm doing something else. I don't have a commute. I work here. I live here. To get to court is 10 minutes, depending on how badly they've torn up the one road I take to get there. Um, so I don't have a ton of like downtime, I guess. So at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want to consume more true crime. So thanks to my friend Jason, who was here earlier in the chat. Um, he has been kind enough for years now to share all his passwords to all the streaming services with me, except I did finally get booted off of Netflix because he's in another state. It took him a year though to do that. Um, so I would go and like I open up Hulu. I have some shows I like to watch. Open up Hulu. It's true crime documentary, true crime documentary, true crime, true crime. Open up Peacock, which is NBC, same thing. HBO, same thing. And I'm like, oh my God. But what if I don't want that? Because yeah, I watch like Law and Order SVU because, it's been forever. I've always been watching that. I don't watch every like crime procedural out there, and I don't watch Dateline but there's just so much of it. It's just there's so much of it. And then if I'm it's okay, Jason. I got a new T-Mobile plan and a discounted Netflix. So I'm binging The Diplomat right now. It's really good. Um, my algos are completely messed up. You're exactly right, Kelly. Because because I Google stuff for work. Um, and then like, so I'm watching drill rap stuff. And then I play Minecraft on an iPad, like in peaceful mode. I suck at building or whatever, but like it's entertaining and um I don't know. I aspire to be, you know, to build something fabulous one day in Minecraft and it will never happen. But um so I Google Minecraft videos, right? So I have the weirdest algorithm ever. It's so crazy. Um and the other day I didn't realize this, but I was looking at a channel. The guy's name is 1090 Jake, and I forget what it's like. One Crime is the name of his channel. I don't know. Anyway, he covers music like rap and stuff like that, and I think he's a former felon convict. And I didn't realize it. I was looking through his stuff to look for some of the participants in the upcoming trial, and I saw where he had done a video on one of my prior clients. So apparently this was not my first brush with drill rap, although at the time I didn't know that's what it was. Anyway, that's how I came up with the idea of this concept of like when is it enough, right? So um and true crime, I wa- I my earliest memory of it is basically like legacy media. So it would be Dateline, but in the 80s, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember Unsolved Mysteries, America's Most Wanted, and then the UK, I guess there was a British program called Crime Watch. Um, so and John Walsh started his show. He was because his son was missing. um and they have solved uh it looks like 260 cases. and over 1,100 fugitives have been apprehended during its run. And I think there's a version of it. And he also co-founded the NCMEC, which is the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children. So I know some of us cut our teeth there. Of course, the OJ trial. I was in college then, I remember that. And I was always a fan of Dominic Dunn. I don't know if any of you ever read uh, Dominic Dunn's. He was a a writer whose daughter was sadly taken. And he began to write about the interaction of wealth and high society within the judicial system. Um, it turns out, oh, I didn't know this. Alexis put most of this together for me. I did not know that his former boyfriend was arrested and he was convicted of it. He only served 2.5 years. That's crazy. Anyway, he wrote for Vanity Fair, and I've always loved his stuff. And then he was there every day at the OJ trial. And then he had a TV series for a while called Dominic Dunn's Power, Privilege, and Justice on Court TV, which later became True TV. And he discussed the justice and injustice at the intersection of the celebrity and the judicial system, which we're seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of that because of this whole drill rap thing, right? Where maybe these artists that I haven't necessarily heard of doesn't mean they're not famous. You might not have heard of them. The first one I had was Triple X, and so it's XX Tentacion. He was shot during a robbery in Broward County, Florida, and 5 people were tried for that. And I worked on that for a little while until I had a falling out with a lawyer who didn't like my theory of the case. And that jury was out for 3 weeks. So I have now started seeing this sort of intersection between famous people, famous entertainers to some extent, depending on, again, you know, what genre you're interested in. And it's no shade to drill rap. I couldn't tell you who the country artists are right now, and there have been periods of time when I really liked country music. But I'm starting to see that turn up. And so what I'm also seeing then are some of the rap channels that like covered music in the beginning are almost becoming more true crime because of things like the YSL trial in Atlanta, which was a huge RICO case that went on for 2 years. I took them like a year to pick the freaking jury, and they went through 3 judges, and it was just a wild mess. And to learn about drill rap, I have gone on YouTube, and then watching the Alicia Andrews trial, Trap Laura Ross was brought up, and you know, cops claim to have never heard of this particular channel who did a enormous video on the war in Jacksonville. He's not the only one that's covered it. Anyway, so I'm starting to see more and more of this. And so I started looking up things like books, for example, right? When I was thinking about this and starting to put it together. And did you know there are a dozen books about Murdaugh? It's crazy. A dozen, at least a dozen. And for example, like how, in my opinion, some of this has just really exploded is Mandy Matney, right? Lover or hater, in 2019, she was a local journalist who started sort of digging into the Murdaugh family. And she started a podcast on her kitchen table, and her sound was terrible. And, it was her and her fiance. And she said She started the podcast 2 weeks after the homicides at Moselle. And she said, I started the podcast primarily because I wanted people to understand the story. A lot of the national media were pointing at the boat crash victims. There's a whole backstory if you don't know Murdaugh, and I'm not going to go into it. As being the suspects in Paul and Maggie's death, they weren't understanding all the different layers of how corrupt the area is and the different power dynamics involved. So she's now released more than 120 podcast episodes, founded an independent news organization called Luna Shark Media, written a book called Blood on Their Hands, um, participated in documentaries, and I believe she's got a multi-part like scripted drama series that went to Hulu. I'm hating StreamYard right now. I'm hating it. I can't even. Where are my star questions? Oh my God. Oh, there they are. Okay. Oh, they're all squeegee. Got it. Um, so anyway, like that's just I started listening because I had read like a People magazine article online about it, and I started listening and I didn't love her, but I was so fascinated by the story, and then I got very engrossed in the trial, even though I was doing a criminal investigation, defensive investigation for work. That was one that like hooked a lot of us. And probably if I didn't have to read so much discovery for work, I would read a book. And I used to listen to books, um, but I can't be bothered to find them to listen to now. So because I also have to listen to a lot of police interviews, and those are really fun. Um, so there's actually in the last few weeks, because my algorithm on like my search algorithm on YouTube has changed under my personal profile because of the different things I look up. I have seen more and more and more and more true crime creators with lots and lots of subscribers that I had never seen before. And it's just crazy how many there are out there. And, I'm this little teeny tiny channel. We've been around for a year now. There's 1,000 of us. I'm fine with the size of it. I like knowing who's in my chat. I like, um, seeing you guys come back and talking to you when I don't abandon you. But the proliferation of it is crazy. And if I tell someone that I've got a YouTube channel, they're like, you need to be on TikTok. I do not have TikTok. I do not have Facebook. I I do have Instagram, but it was only because I was following the Taylor Swift Eras tour. And the only reason why I have X, formerly Twitter, is because open source intelligence drops a lot of information for some reason over there. I use Reddit for some things, but you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? As you do all of these. So I had no idea that true crime was a thing on TikTok. Do any of you watch true crime on TikTok, or do you go to TikTok for your true crime information? I'd like to know. Well, let me know. Where do you go besides um, YouTube? Because I mean, like, you're obviously here, and I always say if you're not related to me or know me in real life, then you're here for uh, something to do with true crime, right? Hi, Ohio Palm Mom. Good to see you. Um, mm, mm, mm. Oh my God. Larry Powers, would it be fair to say that having money like some rich rappers increase your odds of going free, in my experience? So it's not the rappers who have been on trial, right, that I've had to deal with. It's the people accused of unaliving the rappers. But we're gonna talk about some misconceptions on legal um on legal stuff. Yeah, Kelly, I'd never considered TikTok for true crime either. I just don't know. Hi, Rich Auntie, welcome. Um, Look, the thing is, if I um Afton, your friend's channel has like 12,000 followers. Is that on TikTok? C. Morales, you're so kind. Just here for anything I want to talk about. I appreciate that because I do tend to go on about all different things. Um, TJ, good to see you. YouTube for watching true crime. So you guys put it in the chat. I mean, obviously, don't I know that you're here. Barb Ellison, my goodness, lady, good to see you. I'd be Michigan if I didn't say hi to you already. Tell me in the chat, and I'll be patient. Where other than YouTube do you consume true crime content? I'd like to know. Do you use other forms of social media? Facebook, Instagram, the TikTok, uh, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Do you watch Dateline? Do you watch the documentaries? What else? Unsolved Mysteries, Oxygen, Investigation ID. I mean, there's so many of them. So, or is it only certain cases? Well, I'm not going to ask compound questions. I'm just going to ask the one. I'd like to know where you consume your true crime content. Barbara Ellison says YouTube because documentaries are biased. Okay. Kelly, Insta and TikTok, but only do true crime on YouTube. Put up a poll. Larry, you're asking entirely too much of me because I honestly don't know how to do that. So, and I don't know if it needs to be done on the YouTube side or thanks, great gams. Um, or on the StreamYard side. And so StreamYard updates itself a lot, and I haven't used it except for last night in a month. So um, we'll work on learning how to do polls. Squeegee says YouTube, the web, Reddit, Facebook, X, Legacy in order. YouTube and some documentaries on Netflix. So I watch I watch documentaries sometimes. Hi, Flash Fan 85. Welcome. You're welcome to chat. You're welcome to lurk. Is that a cat in your picture? I can't see anything. Um, welcome in. Psychosaurus Rex. I only watch it on YouTube. I don't really have other streaming services. See news articles. Otherwise, algorithm is cat. Okay. Pork, porky pet. Porky pets. Okay. And the oatmeal. All right. Amanda Calamar. Oh, I forgot about Discord. Yeah, Aaron's trying to get me um, to participate in Discord. Rich Auntie, some on Netflix. Kelly doesn't like the TV shows anymore since she started watching Trials live. Okay. Um, oh, your Yorkie. I'm so sorry. I cannot see the little tiny icons. Yorkies are welcome. Jenny G says, if I watch documentaries, it's because they're super popular. Most of my TV consumption is fiction. Yeah, so sometimes I stumble across documentaries that I find are really interesting, like Trafficked with, I want to say I always get her name wrong. I want to say it's like Mariella Van Zant or Maria Van Zant. It's like a National Geographic show that is on one of the streaming services. And it's really good because you learn about stuff that you never would. She doesn't talk about like cases that we all follow. So, um, what? Yeah, it depends. Flash fan 85. I appreciate you. I've got trifocal glasses and um, reading this stuff is hard to do, and I don't have a separate camera. Um, let's see. Barb says, I'm over consuming content. It's kind of an issue. Karen Reed and the overwhelming overlap into multiple legal cases has me floored. Yeah, I know that has continued to expand into a whole thing, which is interesting. I find that I move on, you know, um, I move on from cases, and I do the same thing in real life. Watching documentaries tends to make Amanda Cullimore try and do deep dives. So I like the ones where I learn about something, not necessarily about like I said, about an actual case or a specific crime. Um, I have a question. So for those of you who are here and you are um, trial watchers, I see you, Squeegee. Who are trial watchers? I forgot my question. Is anyone surprised? No. Oh, what do you think about attorneys giving or defendants, for example, like Karen, giving pretrial interviews? So the attorneys in Alicia Andrews here, they gave several interviews right before trial, not 6 months ago, not when she was supposed to go to trial in August, but like literally the weekend before jury selection started, which is just crazy to me. And I would not think that, I mean, you risk tainting the jury pool. Do you think that that's a good idea for the attorneys? Like it happened in Murdaugh, right? They did documentaries and interviews and all kinds of things talking about it beforehand. I don't know that I think it's a good idea. Yeah, so Psychosauric Rex, uh Saurus Rex, sorry. Um and C. Morales don't think it's a good idea. Um Barb says KR did her interviews during trial one, expecting an acquittal. Yeah. So, and Squeegee says it's not a good idea, but it happens. Be Michigan. So it looks like those of you who are answering, and thank you all for being here. And if you don't mind, because would you hit the like thumbs up button for me? It's really super simple and it's free. Um, they gave interviews before the O.J. Simpson case started. We know how that turned out. Yeah, and I feel like that was back in the day of like the press or the courtroom steps. But wasn't Sarah's attorney? He was a sort of a courthouse step kind of attorney. I don't think we see a lot of that as much anymore. Um, TJ says thinks they're crazy for doing it, but as a watcher, loves it. Um, AJ sounded like he was supportive of the interviews. I don't feel any kind of way about it often. Um, Barb said then they tried to use them against her, but the Commonwealth didn't know how to capitalize on it. Ohio Palm Mom doesn't have TikTok. You listen to podcasts on iHeart, doesn't have time to watch anything, so usually just listening. Now back to Letterboxd to be okay. Rich Auntie says, I do know how to do this. I think it's better to wait until it's done. Most times, some of KR's and these come back to bite her, but Sharp defense team was spectacular against all the corrupt officers in Massachusetts. Yeah, I mean, that's a saga that probably if I did not do what I do for work, I would have continued to follow. But I'm in a cycle right now with where a lot of cases are just going to trial. And they're big ones. And so not following any, I'm not following anything that I'm not currently involved in. Um, can I'll come back to your questions. Oh, litter box. Um, let's see. Clients should keep their pie holes shut, says Larry Powers. They're lawyers too. James, would it be fair to say Owen stepped in it when he said Sarah owes him? Yeah. And then he had to say he was working pro bono. Yeah, I mean, I think you've always got the risk of that, right? Like I have the risk of talking too much, and I have to be careful, you know. I want to say things that I can't be saying. And I have to be mindful of that, which is why I have outlines I'm supposed to be looking at, and now I let it time out. So Kelly says, I don't like them getting information out that wouldn't be admissible at trial, then everyone gets angry at the jury. I remember seeing, you know, that police interrogations were going up on YouTube, and I was like, that's crazy. Like I thought all this stuff was protected. I didn't know like that all of that could go out. But of course now I do know. Psychosaurus is answering Kelly. I think press conferences to keep the public informed is one thing, but pre-trial sit-down interviews from anyone involved in the trial is a big no. Yeah. Um, let's see. Flash fan says, I like watching the older cases like Menendez, Casey Anthony, stuff like that. Yeah, we don't know for sure if Owens had a secret book or movie deal with Sarah. She probably won editing power. Can you imagine that? Oh my God. Um, so Rich Auntie would like to change fields and go into something closely related to the legal field. Yeah, I thought that too. Here I am. Um, Afton says she detests all the gag orders. They cause issues. So let me go and look at the questions Squeegee has because he's been asking them. So I need to pay some attention here. So his first question I have started is, do I think smaller channels have a chance to succeed in the current environment? Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, every week, despite me being somewhat erratic and not consistent, there's more of you watching. My channel isn't growing subs, and I don't have a problem with it. And I understand it because I'm not here, right? And so why would I keep gaining subs? I'm not providing the content for it. But I see, like I said, you know, my algorithm gets really funky sometimes. And so I see channels come up all the time that I'm like, they have a lot of subscribers, maybe not, you know, as big as an Emily Baker or Peter Tragos or Long Crime or Melanie Little. But I see channels come up that have, you guys just hit 16,000, and that's amazing. And Tanika blew her channel up in under a year. Um, I think it comes down to whether your audience likes you, if they and I guess what I would say is there's something out there for everyone, right? I don't I like I'm not going to allow any hate ever in my chat for anyone, period. I don't care who it is, because I think a tiny bit of hate leads to a lot of hate. And I'm just like, no, we're not going to do that here. I come on here and I don't make stuff up. I try to, well, I don't try, I bring you information that I have vetted in some way, shape, or form. Do I get stuff wrong? I'm sure. I'm sure I do. But, you know, if you want a gossipy situation, that's out there for you. If you just want somebody who is going to feed into your mindset, that's out there for you. If you want to watch trials like you guys do, you know, that's out there for you. There are people obviously who are in the legal world who have channels, and I like some of them, I don't like other ones. So you know, and I didn't know there was this whole like group of channels that had started out just like covering rap music that now are like practically true crime channels. DJ Academics has an incredible knowledge of the legal system. It's crazy. Like, dude, what trouble have you been in, sir? Um, okay, so let's see. Read that one and look at this one. Do I think the market has growth for true crime? I mean, it sure. it seems right now, I just wonder, it, if we've hit our peak. I'm curious about your opinions. Like I said, I came up with the idea to talk about this content tonight because of how frustrated I was that like I go to watch a drama TV show or Grey's Anatomy or whatever it is. I like Chicago Fire. I have series that I follow. There's some that I'm just like super invested in, even if I don't love like the cast anymore. Like I feel the need to finish. Um, I have to go and like hunt those things down. And so have we reached the saturation point? I don't know. And the other thing that had me thinking about this was other areas of YouTube that have sort of imploded at different times. Like the beauty space was really big in 2016, 2017, 2018. And then that sort of had all kinds of issues and that sort of imploded on itself. And also, um, the pandemic happened and there wasn't as much, in my opinion, like there was no reason to continue to watch these channels, which was also making me go out and spend money I didn't necessarily have because I wanted to have whatever the product was. It was like watching endless commercials. So, that space is still big. It's just not as big. Um, are there any other spaces for creators other than YouTube for true crime? Yeah, I also think that there are Twitch streamers who are now streaming trials and they're crossing over and streaming on YouTube. And I think you would know better than anyone um, about this because you guys are extremely knowledgeable. But apparently TikTok and um, all the places we've already talked about. And then there are still blogs out there, Substack and all different kinds of places. All right. Is oversaturation of true crime a bad thing? I mean, we're going to talk about some of the negatives that I see. Let me see here. Jenny G. How about the octopus M's? Have you watched that? No, I haven't, but I have seen it pop up a number of times. Okay, so Larry, I already read that one. Amanda Cullimore asks a good question. The defendant cannot benefit from their crimes, can they? No. So, at least not in states that have the Son of Sam law, which says that they cannot make a profit from anything. And then if they do that, and I don't remember the outcome from the OJ situation, but a lot of families will turn around and file civil suits for wrongful death. And then if you've made any profits, let's say you were acquitted like he was, then those profits could be taken from you in a wrongful death settlement. So let's see. Flash fan. Question, watching older trials like trials from the 1990s. The attorneys seemed like they were more aggressive. Do you think that was because cameras were new to the courtroom? Yeah, in a way I do think that. Um, I think also sort of, I think it was sort of a time for big, flashy attorneys like that, like the Johnny Cochrans, and there was one out of Texas. It's called him Racehorse something. I can't remember. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that the media coverage, the cameras, I think that attorneys are really aware of that. One of the attorneys that I do work with did not understand during Sunny Bell, like Scotty was sitting there. He was actually streaming trial TV live in the courtroom, reading comments. And I don't think the older attorney understood. Like he doesn't, when I try to explain things to him, he doesn't take me seriously. So um, whatever I say isn't true till it comes out of somebody else's mouth. But I think that changed his approach completely once he saw that it was like a live stream, that like people were actually watching it and talking about it. So yeah, I do think that it does that. Let's see. Psychosaurus Rex. Do I think the world of true crime and exposure to it, in combination with the isolationist community social media promotes, is propelling the public into too much fear, paranoia, conspiracy, mistrust? I think it's doing a lot of things. And of course, you work in this area, so it would be an interesting discussion to have with you. And I do have some notes on that. I think that there's a lot of things that this is causing that are not necessarily good. Um, and yeah, I think that it has definitely, like, before I realized how big sort of like the true crime genre was, or that I could be watching stuff like this and I was just listening to podcasts or, watching a documentary or something, before it became as real to me as it is now, because of how immersed I am in these cases, and the cases get bigger, and this is my job, not being a YouTuber, being an investigator. Um, it has definitely, and then the years of being inside, um, because I don't work from an office anymore. Yeah, it has totally changed my outlook, but also I think it has upped my fear level, um, and my mistrust. I would 100% agree with that. Conspiracy, um, I feel like I'm aware of a lot of corruption. I don't know how I feel about like conspiracy theories. Um, oh, I see Super Bowl has joined the chat, um, to ask if Henry can join her because she's free. Well, Super Bowl, you have to come down here and get him. Cost of transportation's on you. Squeegee says, what was my impression on the Sunnyvale victim impact statements? I'm going to get there. So let me go back to regular comments and see if you guys are still with me. Um, mm, 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 mm. Okay. So, um, yeah, I think social media in general can promote fear and paranoia. One of my biggest issues with it, and I think a lot of you know this already if you're here because you hear me say it over and over and over again, is um, the misinformation that I see in chats. And so like I said, I was paying a lot of attention to the Alicia Anders trial because I am working on that case on a defendant that, was played a different role in it. And so it was Law and Crime was airing it, and their chat. Well, I know some of it is bots, but like the ignorance level is just insane, and the misinformation, and it just is infuriating. Which is why I like these smaller channels. I mean, obviously, Trial TV Live is growing. They're at 16,000 now, and but it's why I like the communities where we recognize each other's names, because they're not so crazy uh, with misinformation. I guess it depends on the channel and their moderators. But Amanda Collmore says, watching true crime can teach you to be more aware of your surroundings and environment. Sure, I agree to that. Oh, well, hello, Tanika. Hello, hello, and so glad to see you, and congratulations on the birth of Sweet Pea. We hope you are doing well. I saw your post. It's nice to have you here. Let's see. Steve Morales says, I don't trust a lot of what's on the internet. Yeah, so that's the thing, Steve Morales, is like where who do you believe? Because some people are just going to believe what they believe. I don't know. I guess going to law school and then working in true crime and knowing, like, I work in criminal defense. It's not true. I mean, it is true crime, but like I don't know another kind of crime. You know, I know that you have to. You can't just. You can't believe everything you read and hear and see. And we're going to run into more of that with AI. And um, that scares me terribly. But I know when I hear or I see things in a chat that are like wrong, for example, about sentencing in Florida, um, or about a case that I actually know something about, it's really frustrating. Let's see. Barbara says, often I'm only drawn to a trial if a misguided and narcissistic defendant decides to testify. Then I can't help but watch. Murdaugh, Tellis, and Charlie Adelson. Got you. Yes, Tanika, everybody is congratulating you. We're very happy for you. And Kelly is right. Going into other chats can be traumatizing. I think that's a major issue. So, okay, Rich Auntie. So, for you, seeing what happened in Massachusetts with Karen Reed has made you more skeptical. I get that. For me, I mean, that was everything that happened in that trial was a little bit mind blowing for me. But also seeing, I didn't follow the YSL trial, like, and what I'm talking about is Young Slime Life as a record label slash street gang in Atlanta that has spawned some really big rappers, namely Young Thug. And they were brought up on RICO charges, and there was a really big trial that went on for a long time. And there was all kinds of crazy drama, and the case was a mess. And that was incredibly eye-opening for me to see the shenanigans that went on there. And then also in Murdaugh for Becky Hill, who, was the clerk of courts there, writes a book, ends up getting, I think she got indicted. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, for tampering with the jury or some. One of the defense attorneys in the Alicia Andrews trial was taking pictures of two young from the courtroom, had his phone up and was taking pictures, or no, I guess they had just walked outside, taking pictures of two young men who had come to the courthouse to watch the trial because he thought they were suspicious. And so the judge calls them in and calls up this attorney and is like, what are you doing? And these young guys are like, we called the courthouse, they said it was okay that we were allowed to come in here, we don't know anybody. Now this case, the people involved in the Alicia Andrews trial, which is the unaliving of a rapper out of Jacksonville, Florida, named Julio Fulio, who happened to be here. So these aren't Jacksonville people, or these aren't Tampa people on trial. These are Jacksonville people who are on trial in Tampa for a crime that was committed in Tampa. And these kids had the smarts to call up. It's not like they were sneaking in. And there's so much armed security all over the courthouse for a defense attorney to be doing that was just absolutely ridiculous. But they also let their witnesses sit in the courtroom before they testified, so that's insane. My rants can go off. Like, I have this whole thing and I'm supposed to be doing this. So Tanika says the internet and true crime were forever infused after Chris watched so much footage of their personal life. AI is so scary. Creative thinking. So Great Gams says creative thinking should be taught more in school, not just think everything you read online is true. So, I mean, I'm from the generation, right, where the internet came out while I was in college and after. So And my mother left me in Montessori school for a very long time. That's why I'm not good at math. I didn't understand the way they were teaching us math. But I'm a very creative thinker, right? And I'm a big reader. Or I was before I went to law school. Law school knocked that out of you real quick. Um, I still like to consume the articles and books and things like that. I just tend to listen to it now more than I do read it because again, I read a lot for work and I have to write a lot for work. But I agree. So I was actually a high school teacher for a little while and I quit in Texas because they had started this whole teach the test thing. And that was not, I was working at a magnet high school for the arts, the professional performing and visual arts. And what I wanted to do was use my creativity in the classroom. And it worked really well for me there. But teachers were starting to get fired because test scores weren't great. And it's like, that's insane because I am a horrible, horrible multiple choice test taker. Like, I just suck at it. So you're basing people's livelihoods on whether a 16 or 17 or a 15-year-old kid has the answers correct on a multiple choice test that like maybe his girlfriend broke up with him the night before. So he's just like drawing the bubbles in to make a question mark. To me, that's insane. And I wasn't teaching my class that way. And I didn't give exams. I gave a lot of pop quizzes um, because I wanted everybody to understand that like I was serious about them doing their reading or whatnot. And then they had big projects and it was a lot of fun, and I I have some stories, but anyway, let's see. Well, Barb, I'm honored. Barb says very few channels lure me into the chat. So I have to say that until it was a year ago. It was August of 2024, and most of you know the origin story of how I got here. Was the first time I'd ever looked at chat. Like it was not something I ever paid attention to. And I would go different places if I was watching like the Johnny Depp trial, for example. Um, I wasn't going to smaller content creators because I didn't know they existed. And then I'd see the big chats and I was like, no, that's not happening. Joe says, if true crime is the only genre I know, should there be another genre called on true crime, i.e. on misinformation? Well, misinformation about the criminal justice system or about crimes that have been committed, I think is another thing altogether than I think there's a lot of information that comes from ignorant people saying things online that they don't know are true. That's not an answer. So Tanika, we know that you should have gone to law school. She likes to read the source documents, girl, we know, and pull available exhibits. You're nosy and want to interpret it yourself and not as viewed by another source. Yeah, and I don't think that enough people do that. They don't pull and educate themselves, and that's what's great about your coverage is it's not like salacious speculation is what I call it. It's you are very much grounded in the facts of it all. Psychosaurus says, I think the Karen Reed trial has resulted in far too many people generating conspiracies around anything and everything now. It's had a really poor effect on confirmation bias in trial watching. Yeah, and so I have I have a lot of issues with what I see. I've talked about this, so I won't belabor the point. Um, but people have this perception that they perpetuate in chats that public defenders are bad lawyers. If you're a public defender, it means you're not a good lawyer. And that is complete and total BS. They make more money than I do, and there are some very good ones. There are some very bad private defense attorneys. There's like that's insane to me that if you're a public defender, you're a bad attorney. No, you're not. And the attorneys I work for, I work for indigent, right? but I'm working for private defense attorneys that are paid for by the state of Florida. If you want to know more about that, see all my earlier streams. Um, let's see. Larry says AI is scary. AI is terrifying. You can create a video of Elvis, Tupac, and Richard Nixon robbing a bank, and people will believe it 100%. I'm terrified for what it's going to do, especially now. And I've talked about the digital stuff extensively. And I have even more to say about it. Shocker. But with the digital stuff now that we rely upon, right? To me, I always say that digital is like DNA, is the new DNA. It's really scary because everybody says, oh, well, the video doesn't lie. But yeah, now it can, right? I mean, it always could, I guess, if you knew what you were doing, but like the proliferation of it was insane. When I was making the Henry slideshow earlier, like Alexis generates those images and puts them in the members space, but then I wanted them to be seen more, so I was making bigger versions of them. I was using AI to create some of those backgrounds. And if any of you caught the hidden Henry in any of those, let me know, because there were hidden real life Henrys in some of those. So yeah, Larry, I'm really concerned, and it takes the legal system a while to catch up with technology, which is a problem. Jenny G, I'm a serial lurker in any channels I watch except 3, now 4 with this one. Oh, welcome. Thank you so much. You'll find that I have a lot of crossover with Trial TV Live, Laura with interesting captures, some of Tanika's people. You will recognize names if you watch any of our channels. Joe has a channel. And if I'm missing people, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Tanika, you put a lot of work into collecting all the things. So Rich Auntie, I'm gonna star your comment and I'm gonna come back to it. Okay. I'm gonna come back. Wait, what? Flash fan says, watch the Dahmer trial. Okay. A few months back, it was insanity defense. Oh, okay. The defense got to present their case first, watched a similar one, and the prosecution went first. Did the burden shift in recent years? Okay, so no, the burden is always on the state, except if you put up an affirmative defense, right? Which insanity would be. But that was tried, I think he was from Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. Burden doesn't shift. Like, even if you have an affirmative, you know what, Alexis, will you do me a favor and write down somewhere that we should talk about the burden and what affirmative defenses are? You guys, I have a migraine and I don't want to say something really, really wrong. So that's a great question, Flash Fan. And Alexis keeps my life in order. So I guarantee you that will go on a list of things and we will come back to it. Whatever you guys want to know about, if you want to learn about stuff, you want to talk about stuff, then you got to let me know, right? Put it in chat or put it in comments if you are on rewatch, because we're definitely interested. And then there's the YouTube communities. And yes, I abandoned you and I'm sorry, but I will always come back. Yeah, many chats are not very nice. Let's see. Okay. So yes, it's like I'm gonna come back to you guys on some of this stuff. Oh, Jenny G, that's very sweet. So at some point, I would love to tell my stories about teaching because I've got a couple of really good ones. And that was that was like I say it all the time, like I miss the 90s. I'll take my Blockbuster card back. Like I'll trade my iPhone for a Blockbuster card. Um, so Ohio Palm Month, this is a good point. Okay, I agree with this. Without the interest in true crime, there wouldn't be a push for cameras in the courtroom. Cameras help shine a light on what's going on. Canton is unraveling. Absolutely. I agree that I trials should be public, right? So I was watching the Alicia Andrews trial. They held it in the big courtroom where the Sunny Bell trial was, and I will come back to it. And even if we have to, um, I realize I've already been on here for an hour and 15 minutes. Um, so I was watching, and one day I went in because I was at the courthouse, and I would have gone in. I was planning to go back on Monday because I have to go back down to the courthouse. Not that it's all that far, but like when you work at home, you don't, well, I do not, I'm not one of those um, super healthy, like self-care people that looks nice. Most of the time, I'm not dressed for leaving the house. Whatever I'm wearing is old. And so like going to court is an ordeal because clothes and shoes, all those things. Um, but I actually stopped in there one day. So they were in the big courtroom, the same room that the Sunny Bell trial was in. And for the Sunny Bell trial, it made sense because there were 5 co-defendants. So, and with Scotty, there were 6 lawyers. And then with Billy Lane and me, there were the two investigators on the defense side. And then I think there were 2. It was Eismer. I don't remember, you guys, who was the prosecutor. I remember Eisner. Anyway, Squeegee said to me, it looked like it was really empty in there. And the center gallery was a lot. What would happen was like the law clerks would come in, or you'd see other states' attorneys come in. You'd see people kind of come and go from that middle section that you could see the most, right? The jury was on the same side as the prosecution. And so the victim's family was it's like a wedding. The when you go into a courtroom, right? You're on the defense side or you're on the prosecution side. And then on our side, on the defense side, it was usually fairly full because you have 5 co-defendants. And people have jobs. So family members would come and go. And I know that that we tried to ensure that someone was always there for Andrew Thompson. And in another trial that I had last year, the judge definitely, it was only 2 co-defendants, and the judge definitely noticed my client's family versus the other person's family and the way in which they conducted themselves. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't like not knowing what's going on. So I really, um, I'm really glad for the cameras, especially because I didn't have to go to court every day. I could sit here and watch. But the day I slid into the courtroom, the deputy said, are you a witness? And I'm like, no. So I sat in the center gallery, and that courtroom was empty. There were 2 people who I think were her parents who were sitting in the very back row on the defense side. She had 8 attorneys. There were 3 prosecutors and Fulio's mom and her attorney, and like 1 or 2 other people would come and go on that side. But they're from Jacksonville, so there wasn't there. I don't know why they put it in the big courtroom, except maybe they expected there to be more people. Like in April, it'll have to be because there's 4 of them. But I don't know. And what tangent? Yeah, it is my anniversary. We figured that out. We figured that out right before I came on. So tomorrow will be a year. So yay, happy anniversary. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Well, hello, sir. Let's see. Okay, let's go. Slash 85 says, I want to say I found your channel in January sometime earlier this year. Thought you were awesome. Forgot to sub, forgot forgot your channel name until last month. Well, I'm glad you found me again. And maybe I'll populate your algorithm next to Taylor Swift like I do in my own personal algorithm, which I always take the screenshot when one of my shorts shows up next to Taylor Swift. All right, let's see. Barb says it's more valuable for me to listen than, yeah, not that there's anything wrong with yapping. Yeah, everybody likes Tanika's, source documents and exhibits, and I try to bring you guys that stuff as much as I can, um, too. And if you go back to my earlier streams, I have done a lot of that. I haven't done as much recently. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay. So paid experts. Let's talk about, um, so I have all this other stuff, but let's go and talk about misconceptions that have come from true crime. Let's talk about the sort of the some of the common misconceptions, and I'm going to tell you the ones that make me angry and or irritated. And I want you guys to put what you think are the biggest misconceptions about true crime content, about the criminal justice system based on true crime content. What are the biggest misconceptions that you see over and over again? I'd like to know that. Okay. And I'm going to tell you what a couple of mine are. And thank you guys so much for your engagement in the chat. I appreciate you so much. And I'm trying really hard to get through everybody. But Psychosaurus Rex, this is what made me just think of that. We're going to skip a bunch of this and we'll come back to it another time. It's similar to the thoughts. So she's referring to my statement that public defenders are not bad attorneys. Sorry, Henry was here and now he's not. I'm sitting cross-legged, so he can't bite my ankles. Public defenders are not bad attorneys, right? I mean, there's going to be bad attorneys, private and public. It just you can't just say that. But so Psychosaurus Rex, when we were putting this together earlier, so you said that's similar to the thoughts people have that if you're a paid lawyer or a paid expert, that means you're terrible and biased and a liar. Correct. So here's the thing. Do you think that the state's experts, the prosecution's experts, are up there testifying for free? They are not. They have to get paid. Do you do your job for free? Do any of us do our jobs for free? Well, some of us, yes, because the federal government's decided they're not going to pay for my job on the federal side. So, yeah, I've done some work for free that I'd really like them to freaking pay me for. But no, typically we do our jobs because we have to earn a living, right? So to say that an expert is biased because they are being paid is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, some of their rates are kind of insane, but who in their right mind is going to put in hours and hours worth of work or travel across the country or do anything out of the goodness of their hearts? That doesn't make any freaking sense. Rich Yancey says, if I went to law school, I definitely needed my natural interest in reading a lot. Listen, it's a good thing that I was the reader that I was before I went in. My memory is just like Swiss cheese. Yeah, so I've talked about this a lot. Jenny G says, ask almost any lawyer, even the best. I bet they were public defenders at some point. Public defenders are necessary in our system. So I've talked about this before. I'll say it again. If you go to law school and you get a student loan, or like me, a lot of student loans, and you go into public service, which is either the prosecution or the defense, district attorney, whatever they call them in your state. I'm in Florida, obviously. They are called the state's attorneys here, and they are called the public defenders. If you go into public service like that, and those aren't the only jobs, you could be at the AG's office, 10 years, and you make your payments, your loans are forgiven after 10 years. That's a public service loan forgiveness program that still currently exists. So a lot of people start out in the prosecution and or the defense. They switch back and forth. They do both. And a really good defense attorney does both. And I think that judges should have to have had experience in both sides of whatever they're judges for. And I've talked about this before too. The civil judges rotate in and out with the criminal judges, and it's annoying and it causes chaos. Barb says, you, Sam, opened my mind to how unfair defense has it against the government. Karen Reed et al. Has solidified that. I have appreciated your support, Barb Ellison, since day one, and all of your emails about how you've learned something. And that's my goal, right? Is for you guys to learn something and for people to have their eyes opened, because I didn't know. I didn't know any of this stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Flash fan, I watched a trial early last year, cold case in Tennessee. David Swift had a public defender went up against the district attorney. I mean, actual district attorney, and got an acquittal. So there you go. Yeah, it's a it. When I'm working with defendants, do I see a lot of nature versus nurture? Okay, so that's something else I wanted to talk about. All right, let's thank you, Alexis. Let's see. So Rich Auntie says, I think a conspiracy channel around old crimes, famous trials would be interesting. I have, that's so funny that you said that. I have some thoughts on that I had earlier today that I've not shared with anyone. Yeah, I have chronic migraine, which is why my forehead looks so nice, because they Botox my head and it includes my forehead, and I'm not sad about that. But yeah, I had one last night too. And I have medication, which I took last night so that I could do the stream last night, but you can get rebound migraines from them. So I didn't take it tonight. And that's why I'm drinking Pepsi, because sometimes that helps. Okay, Psychosaur says burden shifts to the defense for insanity and self-defense. Order presentation is just however that court does it. Thank you. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Because the order of presentation part is what threw me. Kelly, feel better, please. Thank you for being here. Dahmer was Wisconsin. Okay. And the defense got to present their case first. I call it the reverse trap. That's really interesting. Yeah, Kelly, thank you so much. We appreciate. So yeah, the reason I think that we see so much true crime come out of Florida is, one, we are insane here, apparently. Like, it's in the water. The water's orange. But also because of the sunshine laws. And so, we have a really open public records system. Let's see. Has a pro se ever won a case for homicide or anything like that? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Off the top of my head, I cannot say. I can't say off the top of my head. I really don't know. Thank you, Jason. I love you too. Oh, yes, I can have Billy on as a guest. I talked to him recently, but I really want to promote his nonprofit, which is called We Are the Essentials. He gave me some stickers and things called We Are the Essentials. There you go. He goes looking for missing and deceased missing people with a group of other people. Yes, I saw. So when I saw him at Sunny, we talked about it. So yeah, you guys, Jason Branson has been my friend now for, oh my God, since what, 1997, beginning of 1997. It's been a minute. How often are multi-jury trials conducted? That's a really interesting question and a good one. And again, I don't have the answer to that, but man, what a pain, you know? I think more often than not, and again, this is a statistic I don't know, so I'm going to speculate. off the top of my head, in our cases, what typically happens is a motion to sever is granted. And we filed motions to sever in Sunnyvale, and that did not happen. Um, and that's something that has come back um, on us from, people who want to be involved in the case and they don't understand why wasn't there a motion to set. We filed one. The judge didn't allow defense evidence in. No, that's not true. We did not put up a defense. Well, why not? Because there wasn't one. I mean, and we didn't have the burden, right? I'll tell you about the drama I had that one morning. So I don't want to answer your questions that I don't know the answers to. So if somebody else does, please put them in. But we can always look stuff up. And I love answering your questions. The teacher in me, that's part of why I'm here, is because it fulfills the teacher in me, which does exist. So Psychosaurus says, I think the biggest misconceptions for me are the paid expert thing, as well as the juries hear all the evidence that we hear from pretrial conferences, that they don't hear all the evidence. There's so much evidence that does not go in. And just like the people on YouTube who are watching, cameras aren't in the courtroom for everything. And so if people aren't pulling documents, but even still, there's evidence that does not, I guess, what is considered discovery and what is used or attempted to be used at trial as evidence are different things, right? There's so much that I go through that will never, ever, ever be put in front of the public because it will never end up in a court filing. It will never end up in a trial transcript. And it's not just because I work on the defense, because I get everything from the state, but then the state also depends upon law enforcement to turn things over. There's a chain, there's a process to it. Yeah, I know Rich Allen C. Sonny's case was very sad, and I will I want to talk briefly about her sentencing. Okay, so Amanda says, oh, she's answering Flash Fan. They must be guilty because they aren't a nice person. It's so infuriating. Wait until you've heard all of the evidence before deciding if guilty or not guilty. I'm glad you learned a lot here. Great games. Thank you. Thank you too, Squeegee. I appreciate you. Thank you for the anniversary wish. I'll think of something fun to do for um uh, trying to think of something fun to do for an anniversary celebration slash stream. What are the sunshine laws? Amanda Killamore. So in the state of Florida, if you go to online sunshine, I don't know if I think it's .com. All the Florida statutes are there, and it's written into I believe it's written into our state constitution about open public records, like government meetings are supposed to be open to the public, trials are supposed to be open to the public. Like, it just means that we're not supposed to be hiding behind closed doors, that the sunshine can shine in on Florida, which is why, again, I think we see a lot of cases, besides the insanity of it all. And I don't mean legal insanity, I just mean, it's Florida. But is because of the open access that the public has, basically. Hopefully I said that right. Like I said, my head hurts. Squeegee is not an attorney. He's a former musician slash graphic artist slash crypt keeper slash cat daddy. Let's see. Jenny G says, I agree about the experts. People were so upset about the cost of the experts. And Karen Reed, I understand it was more money than I will make in years, but experts are essential to our system. The state of Florida shelled out $100,000 in the queso trial on that 3D imaging. And I'm waiting for that motion to drop here. Flash fan said, I read about a case from Florida. You really are interested in the historical true crime. In 1981, defense had a medical issue, filed for continuance because his doctor said no trial work and the judge denied the motion. Is that a normal ruling? I mean, it's up to a judge. Judges can say, nope, sorry, just no. They can say no. The Alicia Andrews trial was moved because Michelle Doherty ended up having a medical emergency. Thank you, Alexis. Let's see, sorry. Laws that every state should adopt. They are laws that allow the release of SO of so much in criminal cases. I'm sure Sam, I'm not sure Sam is explaining anything better. So much that doesn't end up being admitted as evidence for the jury, but the public thinks they get everything in totality. And learn through trial watching that is so not the case. Correct. Who Squeegee should be an attorney at this point. He's so knowledgeable. I think Tanika too is very good at explaining a lot of the legal stuff. Sure, some experts are price gougers because they think it adds to their credibility, but regardless, it doesn't make them bad or biased. Okay. Well, here you go, Squeegee coming in with some facts. Florida Sunshine Law, codified in Chapter 286 of Florida statutes, is a set of laws ensuring public access to government proceedings by requiring that meetings of state and local government boards, commissions, and other governing bodies be open to the public. Okay. No, husband and wife prosecution teams or defense teams are not conflicts. Motions in limine, correct, Shanika. They are very interesting because they do give you a lot of insight into strategy, into evidence. And I don't think a lot of people understand what they are. So I will just give you the very quickest interpretation, which is a motion in limine is usually a motion to exclude evidence from being allowed into a trial. And if you guys want to go, if we want to do a rundown of like legal terminology and stuff, it's been a minute since I did like an educational stream. We can totally do that. So, okay, what I would like to do is because some of you have asked about, I want to address the Sunny Bell sentencing really quick because I thought this was really, really interesting from the perspective of what the victim's family said. Okay, so if you don't know, really briefly, you can watch the trial over on Trial TV Live. Yes, they are my friends. I plug their channels. I plug all my friends' channels. If you want to drop, if you have a channel and you drop it in the comments, please do. Sunny Bell was a 4-year-old child who was unalived during an extremely senseless drive-by shooting, essentially. There were 5 people indicted, charged, tried, and found guilty on all counts. No one can say with specificity what weapon, what person, what vehicle. They were all convicted, all counts. One person had private defense counsel. One person, I think, one person had a public defender. She was great. And then at least three, and I may be wrong about somebody having a private attorney. I can't remember. I might be conflating that with another one of my cases, but the rest were court appointed private defense attorneys, the kind I work for. So sentencing, I don't normally go to sentencings. I'm coming to the end of cases where I've worked for a very long time with the defendants and their families. Like I've talked about, I have disentangled myself greatly. I keep myself at a much greater distance than I used to. I'm not available by phone anymore. I'm not available by tablet anymore. Like you can't, I've put a big wall between me and the defendants and their families. So Andrew Thompson was the person who was our client, whose team I was a part of. And that case is, I've had it since December of 2021. And I have known now his sister since 2021. And prior to the trial, I spent a lot of time with the mother and the sister going through literally everything, because the mom was from Jamaica. She's very religious. She doesn't understand. Uh, they are not a family of who is used to the criminal justice system. They're just not. And I knew that from, I always get good morning whenever the sister would call or text me. It was always polite, good morning, good evening. And she had my personal number. She didn't even have like a secondary number, because at the time I didn't have a secondary one. She never abused me. So like, I went to sentencing because I wanted to support the family. And by the family, I don't mean the victim's family. I work for the defense. That doesn't mean I'm here to get guilty people off. I'm not. I'm part of the process. I say it over and over and over again. What was very interesting to me about the victim impact statements at the Sunnyvale trial was I expected there to be a lot of drama, because there had been some drama during the trial. I expected there to be a lot of vitriol and hate. And part of it came from, my expectations were from a social media post that Sunny's mother had made that I cannot show you on YouTube, because I can't show it to you on YouTube. But it was a public post that she made about the defendants. And we really expected it to be a circus. And I think that the court expected that as well, because we went back to the smaller courtroom because Alicia Anders was in the big courtroom, and there's no jury during a sentencing. And I swear half the bailiffs in that entire complex were in that courtroom. One of the attorneys walked in and was like, holy shit. They were just everywhere. And during the trial, one of the defendants had an outburst and had to be removed. And there had been a fight uh, out in the lobby area. And what was so interesting to me and so unexpected was that Sonny's, especially because of and I will say this is based off of my experience walking in there, so I had an expectation. Sonny's family came in there, and I don't think that everybody understood that there was no choice in the sentencing. If you were convicted on what these defendants were charged with, which was basically capital M, it's mandatory life. There's no room. There's no room. And they all would have been sentenced the day of the verdict, except that 2 of them had no prior felonies. So they were entitled to pre-sentencing investigations. It wasn't going to change anything, right? Because they'd been convicted on the highest charges. There was mandatory sentencing. There was no downward departure available. It is what it is in the state of Florida. It's life day for day. There is no parole. We don't have that here. And if you are charged with first degree like that, and this is where people get things so wrong. So if you're curious about a case, go and read the charging documents, and then go look at the statutes and see what elements have to be proven and what the sentencing guidelines are. Because in the state of Florida, there are rules. It's not a free-for-all. So people didn't understand that, right, going in. But we all did. And I had prepared, Andrew's family for that. Sunny's family came in and they said, we're going to pray for you. we know you. Like, I did not understand. And Squeegee told me later, because they had people from um, families of the defendants, I think, in their chat during trial. I didn't realize that the victims in the case knew the families of the defendants. Like, they grew up together, some of them. I did not know that. They weren't strangers. And the uncle of Mary Harrison, who is the daughter's mom, came in and said, I can't repeat what he said because it was very full of a lot of the F bombs and the MF bombs, but he said, put the guns down. You're killing each other. It's senseless. It's stupid. You have not only wrecked my family, you've wrecked 5 families. Because they have. They've devastated 5 families. Every single one of those boys, men, are from a family. And they're not all from bad families. They weren't raised in the streets. They made choices that are independent of their families, right? I have a brother who could not be more different than me, and I mean extreme and complete polar opposite in every way you could ever possibly imagine. So I was very impressed by the tone that Sunny Bell's family took. They didn't understand that the judge didn't have wiggle room in sentencing. They were like, I hope that you sentence them to, 30 years or whatever. They didn't, for whatever reason, understand that these guys were getting life. There was no room for anything. The lawyers had to come in, they had to file their motions, for judgment of acquittal or, against the weight of the evidence or motions for a new trial because of Devontae Sampson outburst. And that makes me that's something else that pisses me off in chats is like, sit down, shut up, why are you doing that, that's so ridiculous. Because they have to do it, they have to create the record, right? They have to do their jobs. But yeah, so the uncle came in there and you're supposed to direct your comments to the judge, and he turned to the guys, and I mean the bailiffs were like around him, and he was like, what are y'all doing? Why didn't you go to the military if you want to shoot people? What are you doing? You have destroyed your lives, your family's lives, and taken the life of a little girl. And I was so, I don't know if it's out there on the internet. I wish it was out there. I know it was recorded. I would love to be able to show it to you, because it was, and Amanda Cullimore says she watched it today. I don't know that um it wasn't terribly professional. No, but these are the families and they're entitled to their emotions. But Squeegee, is his out there? And if so, I'd like maybe to figure out, maybe next time we can play, because I've never seen anything quite like that. And okay, so I didn't realize it was out there because I haven't. Yeah, we'll grab it. We'll grab it and look at it. It's not long. And we're gonna have to mute half of it. But but you know, I was just really I was really I was really impressed because the victims are entitled to feel the way they feel. The families of the defendants in all cases are not all bad. They're victims too, in some sense, right? And that's not a blanket statement. I'm not going to speak in absolutes. I think you understand what I mean. If you know me, you understand what I mean. Andrew's family was devastated, and Sonny's family said, "We know you didn't mean to unalive our 4-year-old child, this is the chance you took when you were acting reckless and stupid and you got these guns and you got into the cars and you chased down a car you didn't know who was in and you started shooting at it. And that's true. And now look at all the collateral damage. And for them to acknowledge that, especially knowing what I knew from the other side of things, I was really impressed by that. And I appreciated it. And I hope that they heard it, because the uncle was like, "You have been in my house." I think that was really meaningful because this was a street level crime. Um, let's see. Yeah, okay, Trial TV Live did a short of it. Yeah, Rich Auntie says, "Excuse the ignorance behind my question, please." No issues. Is your channel and a lawyer channel where you make a commentary from that statement? I went to law school, but I'm a licensed private investigator in the state of Florida, but I work on criminal defense cases. I mean, I can work on any kind of case I want. I'm a licensed investigator. I own my own agency. But I work on federal and state criminal cases primarily that are paid for by the government. It's called conflict counsel. Basically, I work for an agency called the Justice Administration Commission. In that, I'm a vendor. I have a contract with them, and I can be appointed to cases where criminal defendants who were conflicted off of the public defender's service, so public defender couldn't represent them because there was a conflict. There is a process in Florida, and the third attorney down the chain of the process is a private criminal defense attorney who also has a contract with the state of Florida and agrees to work for a certain amount of money, which is incredibly low. And in that process, the attorneys can then put motions forward to the JAC in the court that says for experts, for psychological testing, for investigators on DP cases, for mitigation specialists. I happen to be a weird hybrid of a person because I don't have a law enforcement background. I went to law school when I was 37 years old and graduated when I was 40 in 2014. And then I went to work in an attorney's office, but not as a lawyer. I am not a licensed lawyer. I've been in the legal field, particularly criminal defense, for 10 years. I'm on 6 years of being a licensed investigator. So I came to YouTube because of Sarah Boone, and there was a lot of misinformation, and I reached out to a creator and I said, I am the person on this team that you're talking about, and I would like to set some things straight. And I ended up here. So and that's how we all met. Like Sarah Boone was the great uniter, you know. That's how I know Tanika. Barb Ellison knew Tanika and put Tanika and I together, and I think Leah, the empty nester, knew Trial TV Live and put us together, and so there's a lot of overlap, and I try to shed light on things that you don't see. So like there's a ton of lawyer channels out there, right, that are breaking down the arguments and everything for you. I'm bringing you stuff like, what does a celebrate extraction look like? I've presented that. I've shown you jury instructions, jury forms, verdict forms, all the different things. So that's what I try to do. And then some of the cases that I'm on are covered in the press or they are live streamed, because this is Florida and this is Tampa. and that's just the way it is. I can work anywhere in the state of Florida, but this is where I am. Um, so I hope that answers your question. And so, yeah, I thank you all so much for hanging in me here with me. Oh, you're going to show it on Monday morning. I have a 10 o'clock meeting downtown. Can I I'll talk to you guys about it tomorrow. Tanika says, glad you're setting boundaries around your time and availability. Put yourself in me time on your calendar instead. It's more about getting beat up by people who don't understand. And it's not my job to educate everyone on everything. So, I do the best I can. So, hey Mel, it's good to see you. Why? Oh, because I'm not on the. All right. I've missed some of you guys. Um, let me see. Yeah, it did really speak of the heartbreak for everyone in the Sunny Bell case, and it was really, um, yeah, I thought it was going to be really dramatic and weird too, and it just wasn't. Justice Council, yeah, so it's the Justice Administration Commission, and yeah, I worked on Sarah Boone's case, Flash fan. That's like I said, Sarah Boone's the great uniter. That's why we're here. Um, Mel says you have a very unique niche. I never did follow a traditional path for anything. Um, so Larry says, how does the wheel system work? So that's essentially what this is. Um, Chief Judge Flash fan is Sabella. And yeah, I am in Hillsborough County. So Alexis wants you all to know that to everyone whose questions were not addressed, please rest assured that she's made note of them, which she has. And she also prepared a very thorough outline, which I've largely ignored, which we probably knew was going to happen, but we have backup content. So Larry, let me answer your question. So the wheel is essentially what they call it in Miami, but it's what is here throughout the entire state. It's every okay, so you have to first go to the Justice Administration Commission. They fund all of the public defense services in the state of Florida. That's the Office of the Public Defender, the Office of Regional Conflict Counsel, and then private court appointed attorneys and their vendors. So, first, a lawyer or anybody who works for them, any expert, any psychiatrist, any medical expert, any whatever, has to accept. There are exceptions, and we can talk about that another time. But for lawyers, they have to have a contract with the Justice Administration Commission. Essentially, they have to say, I'm willing to work for this flat fee, which is like $25,000 for a first degree M, which is ridiculous. There are exceptions to that as well. But they have to do that. So they have to have a contract with the JAC, the state of Florida. Um, and then they have to, within their, at least for Hillsborough County, the way my circuit runs it, which is the 13th Judicial Circuit, is every 2 years, they have to reapply to be on the court appointed list. And it's like a tier system. So my friend Scotty, who's been on here before and is a new attorney, like he is climbing that ladder a lot faster than many do, because you have to have so many trials under your belt to be able to be court appointed for misdemeanors. And then, it goes third degree felony, second degree felony, first degree felony, and then you have to be, there's the very highest level is death qualified. And I work for several of the death qualified attorneys, which is how I end up on DP cases. But what happens, at least here, is there's a list within the clerk of court's office, and I don't know if it's alphabetical. I don't know if in some counties if they actually spin a wheel, but you just go down the list. We have this case. Do you want it? Yes or no? No? Okay. Pick up the phone. They call the next person on the list. And that's how it goes. So some counties might be more random. I thought my county was kind of going on a, like, not every case goes to the same attorney. So it's like more of a, an old school list kind of situation. Um, but yeah, that's how that works. And then because I have a contract with the Justice Administration Commission, I can specify on their website what circuits I'm willing to work in. But the trick is getting them to pay for travel if you work on an out of county case. And some of the circuits are paying to work for. So, can I explain the conflict assignment at the appellate level? I was confused how Sarah went straight to conflict counsel for her appeal. Not that it did any good. She's on her fourth. Yeah, I saw that on I caught up on some of your streams in pieces. I cannot explain it to you tonight because I have to look at it. But yes, Alexis got it for you. So you guys, thank you so much for being here and hanging in with me for 2 hours. Thank you for all your questions and for all of your engagement and for being here and for sticking around for a year and for being new and being members and all of the great things. I appreciate you so very, very much. I thank you, Flash Fan. I appreciate you. I hope you guys will like the video. If you're on rewatch, please like it. If you think you know someone who might enjoy listening to me, please share the channel. I typically stream on Saturday nights at 8:15 every other Saturday night. I have been missing for a month. Yeah, I appreciate all of your support. But please like, share, subscribe, do all those fun things, and be safe out there, okay? And I will see you very soon. Thank you so much. Good night.